And we have now arrived to our highly anticipated keynote speech from our distinguished guest, the General Director of the Fête de Lumières, the Lyon Light Festival, widely recognized as the most famous of the world's top 3 light festivals. The speech will be on the future of light festivals, so please welcome Mr. Julien Pavillard with a big round of applause.
Okay, thank you. So I'm very happy to be there to present to you a little bit this presentation, not about the Light Festival itself, but more about the future of the Light Festival, in my opinion. So my talk today is not about predicting what festivals should like in the future. Instead, it's a reflection on how we use the light, how we perceive it, and how I see festivals evolving. Especially those I know well, like the Light Festival in Lyon, la Fête des Lumières. And to give some context, even if it feels a bit self-indulgent, which I know is not very French, I will start by briefly introducing myself. My background will help you to understand my perspective, where my perspective comes from. So I'm currently directing my 10th Light Festival of Light, but I've created and I curated several light festivals. I worked in Namsan in Seoul in 2007, so I worked on the Seoul Tower, and it was very nice. I worked in Japan, in Moscow, in Montreal also. In Switzerland for 2 festivals, in Schaerbeek, in Brussels, in Belgium also. So I did several festivals, and I also was curator and designers for different kind of light show. And also I worked as an artist for different show in the US. In France and in Middle East, but we don't care about that. And I worked also for lighting plans in France and Switzerland. So I worked in different fields for lighting, even if now I'm only the director of the Light Festival in Lyon and the event manager also of the city. So to speak about the Light Festival and the future of the Light Festival, I would like to speak about different issues, about light, about the roots of the light festivals, especially in Europe, in France, because I know less in Asia, the development of the light festival, and also the light itself. So light is a cultural asset for me, and it's very important to think about that, because when we speak about light, sometimes we think first about functional light. And even if these pictures are not very beautiful, we can see that when we speak light, we speak about how to light our kitchens, our offices, and our cities, just to be sure that the people can move around safely. So it's usually a functional light, even if the functional light can be very nice, thanks to our light designers, and and in particular with the famous one. But of course we have this kind of functional light. But for me, it's important, of course, because we are not nocturnal animals, so we need to have light at night just to move in the city or to move in our houses or building. But it's just a kind of light, because for me what is important also is just to know that the light is also very cultural, and the light is an art itself. So when does it come from? It comes from the painter, for the paintings. You know, these 2 painters, Georges de la Tour and Caravaggio, they were the first painters to work with light. Of course, we can say that we had before other painters, even the people from the, I don't know to say that in English, but the pre-historical period, they use light also just when they were in the caves. They just use maybe their fire just to lit the caves. But with the painters like this one, it's very important for us because we can see how light can change things, how we can highlight some details or not, and you know, even right now, even nowadays, in France, in schools to teach about lighting, we use sometimes this kind of paintings. We go to museums just to show to the students how they did with the light, just to explain also how we can put or shape the beam light to lit something. So painters, they bring the first artistic and dramatic vision, but we are still using this kind of work in our personal work. Of course, for cinema and theaters, we also had very famous light designers. I took some example of a French movie called The Beauty and the Beast, La Belle et la Bête, and this movie, it's an old one because it was in 1946, and this movie is very important for us because the lighting designer called Henri Alécan, he did a beautiful work with light, and it was one of the first movie where the light was so well used to do something. So you can, as you can see in only these three pictures, that really he had a sense of details, and he was really. It was really important for him to have a very good light. Of course, costumes and the set design by Jean Cocteau was also helping him, but the light was very important, and you know that because it's the same for everybody in each country. When you go to theater, we can see also that the light is so important just to dramatize the scene or the story. Of course, we have also artistic light in light festival. So I took only pictures about our festival, but of course we can find that in other light festivals. But you know, this kind of images, which is more like a comic in the first one, or on this facade, or when we use light objects, we also have a real vision of what could do light, and we have also a real vision about light as art. So it's not so obvious for everybody because many people think that light is not really an art, but I'm there today just to say that it's very important to speak with everybody and to say that light is an art like other art. So the roots of light festivals, it starts in France with large-scale events who emerged in Europe and in France in the late 70s, and in France more in the 80s. In France we had, this was a time of major event performances, and these major performances were free, were open to everyone, and our government invested a lot in culture. Like in these events, it was for the French Revolution, so the Bastille Day in 1989, and it was with a famous designer called Jean-Paul Goude, and we had a very huge event at this time. But you can see that the light was not very good. It's not a question of the light because it's not, at this time we use only regular light. Even if we use theater light, it was not so nice. But it was the beginning of big events, large-scale events in the street. And we have also, even if we took these pictures during daytime, yeah, it's really since the 80s that in France we have the habit to have big events with what we call art de la rue, so live events in the streets. And since this period, we can see that the people comes a lot in the streets. And of course, we had also other events. We have also concerts and everything. And as for every country, we have dedicated venues for concert. We have big concert halls. We have stadiums. But in France, we also had a big event called La Fête de la Musique, so the music festivals. And we have that each year during on the 21st of June, and it's also a way to have people in the streets. So the light festivals, they also come because we have the habit to have a lot of events in the streets, and to do something, to have a large-scale events. We had also to develop in parallel big equipment specialized to do large-scale events. Of course, we use beam lighting, and we had a lot of what we call the sky tracer at this time. Of course, it still exists, but now it's with LED. Before it was with xenon lamp or HMI lamp. We used also the first kind of giant image projectors, like the Pani projectors, for example, who come from the theater, or the PG projector, as you can see on the picture, or the hardware projector. So this kind of projectors who came from Austria and from France, and who allowed us to have big images on facade. But it was really at the end of the 80s, even if the Pani's projectors were created, I think during the 14th. It was really at the end of the 80s, yes, that we had this kind of projectors and that we use this kind of projectors. We had also that in London, and at this time it was really magical for the people because it was the first time that we can see so big images in the streets. And of course, because it's one of the big star also, it was thanks to Jean-Michel Jarre, to the French, how can I say that? It's a French musician who did in Houston, in China, in France, in Paris at La Défense. He did also. He wanted to have also a big concert, so with millions of people there, especially in China, many people came. And it was also at this time that giant images, that the use of laser, of a beam, were used to lit the buildings. And Jean-Michel Jarre, he started also to popularize this kind of events during the 19th in France and over the world. And at this time also, so at the end of the 19th, emerged two festivals in quite the same time. The first one, was the I wanted to go back, yeah. The Fête des Lumières. So the Fête des Lumières was in Lyon at the end of the 19th in 1988, and actually it's an event who was created by the city and by one famous lighting designer called Laurent Fachat, another one, Alain Guillot, and it was there because it's an habit in France, in Lyon, to celebrate the 8th of December, because in 1852, in Lyon, we had the installation of a statue of the Virgin Mary on a basilica called Basilica de Fauvières. And on this basilica, so there was a lot of problems, and we should have, of course I was not born at this time, but we had at this time a very big storm and big problem, and the celebration was cancelled. But the inhabitants of Lyon, at this time, to celebrate the Virgin Mary, they put small candles on their window, and since 1852, each year, the inhabitants of Lyon, they put small candles on their windows, and so it's very famous for that in France. And of course, it's a main event for the city of Lyon. And on this 8th of December, where we use small candles, the city of Lyon, 26 years ago, decided to do something also with light, because in Lyon we created also the first lighting plan in France, and they started to have a small festival in the beginning, and of course now it's a big festival, but it started 26 years ago. And at the same time, in Italy, Luci d'Artista was created, and the roots of this festival is quite different, because it's based more on the tradition of using garlands for Christmas time. But for this festival, they didn't use regular garlands. They tried to gather the most famous artists, and they created a really beautiful festival. If you have the chance to go to Torino, please go to see this festival, because it's really nice, and you have different, I think it should be like 25 artists and artworks in the city, and you can see that they illuminate the street for 3 months every year. So these two festivals, Luci d'Artista and the Lyon Light Festival, were the first festivals to be created in Europe. But I think that we can say that it will be also the first ones all over the world, because I think I'm not really sure. Maybe you can say no, but I think that Light Festival, they started first in Europe and then all over the world. But if you have another information, I will be happy to learn it. And after that, after these two festivals, many festivals wanted to be created, because, for example, in France, before the terrorist attacks in 2015, we had in Lyon more than 4 million people coming to see the festival, to visit the festival. So it was really very big, and many cities, especially in Europe, came to see us, to visit us, just to understand how we did that, and they wanted also They wanted also to use light like us, just to showcase what their architecture, their landscape, and to have also many tourists coming to their cities. So for 20 years, we have a lot of festivals who highlight mainly urban cultures, but it was very interesting. I took a picture last year. I was in Shanghai, so I took a picture of Shanghai, but of course Hong Kong did also a very big show. It's really urban show, and it's very interesting what they did, because it's a very large scale, but it's something for me that we can, how to say that, we can think it's interesting, but I think that we can go further than this kind of show. Of course, I took also a picture of Shanghai because it's not a festival, but with the media facade also, it was inspired by what they can saw in Hong Kong and what we can do also in Lyon. And after that, of course, in China, they go much more faster than us. So they have a lot of media facade everywhere, and the same for many cities in China and in Asia in general. But for me, it's interesting, but one more time, it's different a little bit because one of the roots of the development of the Light Festival is mainly because we had the culture who move from cultural venues to the streets, to be into the streets, to be close to the people, to the inhabitants. And the fact that it's a free access, you have a high quality artwork, you can share experience with many people, that it's open to all families, to children, to many people, create an experience and something very emotional to people, and that's very important for me, that we can create emotion and memories to everybody. I will come back again about that, but I think that it's one point very important for the development of Light Festival and for to be sure that the Light Festivals could length for a very long time. So this is pictures, of course, of events also that we can have in the streets, and we can see that the audience is always there when you want to do something. Of course, we had also very big festival during daytime also, but every time we can see that many people want to come together to see this kind of event, because one more time, since we are together and we share experiences, it's very important for everybody, so it's always crowded. And also it's important to notice that for many people, maybe not in Asia, but more in Europe, to have a light festival or to have a festival at night was a new experience, because for many people, they don't go at night very often in the streets. You know, we have a French geographer and researcher who worked on different time of night, and he says that, for example, young people, they go to discotheque, they go to in streets very late at night. But when you are older, maybe you can go to the movie theater, or to restaurants, but you go back at home not very late. And with Light Festival, we had the chance to invite people to go in the streets, and sometimes, but very often, for many people, it was the occasion to discover a new territory, to discover nighttime. And in France, it was really important because people, they didn't stay at night, and they could take a plane to visit countries, to visit other places, but not to visit their location, their street at night, because they were a little bit scared by that. And Light Festival is like visiting new places. Sometimes you can have surprise. You can just have a lot of. You can enjoy also to be in the street, to discover new artists, new artworks. Artists are not very famous actually, but artworks they can discover new artworks, and for people it's really fun. So it's for me also the light festivals, the development of the light festivals became because people, they wanted to go in new territories. Of course, during that time you can have a lot of fun, as I said, and you can discover also very artistic artwork. We had 2 years ago, for example, and you can see that on this picture, we had, for example, a show with laser, and for the audience, it was not only to see something with light. It was really surprising because we created new shapes, and it was a source of inspiration, very important for many artists and for the people. Of course, cities wanted also to do light festival because we have a big competition between cities at night, and for the tourism, and also only for sometimes for the reputation of the cities, and light festival was also a way to attract more people to go in the street, but also to have more media coming just to speak about your own city. And even in Lyon, it was the same. For us, for the former mayor, the light festival, the Fête des Lumières, was also a very good way to speak about the city everywhere. So, of course, it's more and more difficult because now many cities has their own festival, and it's complicated to be more attractive now because if you only want to do light festival and if you don't have real artists, of course it's interesting, but you will have so big competition that I'm not sure that it's very useful to be the first one in the city competition. But I would like to go back on the light itself, to say that it's a narrative medium itself. Of course, light carries a lot of symbols. You know that, for example, we have a very different point of view about light from Asia and from Europe. Of course, I'm sure it depends of the country in Asia, and it's the same in Europe. But for example, for us, it's very important to notice that in Asia, for example, you have more how to say that the light of the moon is most important for usually in Asia than the light of the sun. So it's a big difference between France, for example, and China, because in France, you know, we had also this king that his nickname was the King of Sun, and the Sun King, and for us in France, gold light or hot light, warm light is very important to light our houses, for example. And of course, in Europe, in each country, it's the same. Sometimes when you go in the Nordic countries, they also like to have small candles everywhere because they like also golden light. If you go in the south of Europe, it's temperature higher than in the north of Europe, so they like more cold light. If you go in the north of Africa, we'll have also harsher light. So light is very cultural, and it's really a medium between us. And of course, light is and video projection allows us to tell stories about our heritage, about our architectures, about our culture, and we use light to narrate history, and it's important. But I think it's not enough. I think it's also important to use light and to use images to create new stories, to create new universe about these buildings. And it's very interesting because when you create new images, like for example for these big cathedrals in Lyon, we had last year Julien, which is a German artist who create this kind of images. It's important for us because it's not only the history of the cathedral itself. It's also to say to show something else with light, to show also maybe that the cathedral could be alive, and all these details he did were very interesting, because sometimes also when you go every day through the same street, time is over, so I have to go fast. You have also to see new details that you haven't seen before because the light do something. So, okay, I am really over. I thought I had some time, so maybe I will just finish something, just to say that, even if I'm late, of course festivals, they play a role in the local heritage, but it's important, and I know that Lisa Garishi will speak about that also, but it's important also to co-develop projects with communities and to work with communities. I think that it's a good important things to do, and to not forget that light is a common good. So we have also to share with the inhabitants, with the visitor, how to lead something, because if not, we cannot have a big future for Light Festival. So it was a little bit fast for the end. I wanted to say many things, but sorry, and thank you very much.
And I know it's a surprise, but because we have waited very long for this very keynote speech, maybe we can have a brief moment for the Q&A session, if we may. Director, yes? Let us have a brief Q&A session. Are there any questions from the floor? 잠시 질의응답 시간을 저희가 가져볼까 하는데요. 연사님을 저희가 좀 어렵게 모셔서 혹시 Q&A 세션을 진행해볼까 하는데, 혹시 질문 있으시면 손을 들어주시면 저희가 마이크를 전달해드리도록 하겠습니다. All right, while we wait for the question, I personally have prepared some questions myself, if you may.
Yeah, of course.
This is under, it's kind of a sustainability-wise question. Light festivals are becoming more conscious of sustainability and energy use these days. How has the Lyon Festival of Lights addressed environmental concerns while maintaining this artistic impact? If you may.
Yeah, that's a good question. Of course, sustainability is very important for us, especially because we have a green government for the city. But nowadays, the most important is not about the equipment itself, because all equipment use LED, of course, beamer, laser, video projector, so that's not a big deal for us. Our main concern is more to reuse the equipment, and also about the public itself, because the main carbon footprint is made by the visitors themselves. Of course, we are very happy to have so many visitors, and we don't want to do a festival for nobody, but it's complicated to manage the pollution and the carbon footprints that they do, even if we try to have free access with the public transportation. And for me, that's the biggest problem. Light festival, of course, could be a problem also, because when we use the light screen like this one on a big facade, it consumes energy, but we must also think about the audience, and we must do something with big scale. So we try to do our best to be sustainable, because it's very important, but we also have to do light festivals.
True, I believe that's more like a reality questions, I believe, because we are all here, especially our director is here to satisfy our visitors, and we understand that the more we have visitors, the more pollution it kind of creates, but still we are wishing all the visitors can enjoy the best out of their moments, especially for the Lyon Light Festival too. And my next question goes to, if we have a question from the floor? We have two questions. Let's take a first question from 가운데 사주색 자켓 입으신 여성분이. All right, please.
Hi, I'm Lisa Shi. Thank you very much for your presentation. Even it was quick, it was really rich and inspiring. Thank you. I have a question about the competition between the cities that you mentioned, because it's true that we see sometimes the same artists, same artworks in different cities, festivals. How you, Lighting Festival in Lyon, manage against this potential competitive?
Yeah, thank you for this question. Of course, it's very important, because I didn't say that during my presentation, no time for that, but to have artists every time, because I think that for the light festivals, but even when you want to lead the cities, it's important to have artists and not only designers who do decoration for the city. But the problem is we have a pool of artists, which is big, but not so big. And also we have to think about the fact that the inhabitants, the communities, they can help us sometimes. For example, we try to work also with children sometimes, so real children of 8, 9, 10 years old, to create, to design some new light equipment for the streets close to the nearby the schools. And for us, it's very important because it's a way to regenerate an artistic way. But as you said, Mrs. Ishii, we can find sometimes the same artworks in different countries, and we can see that some new light festivals, they just took what we do in Europe, and they wanted only the same artist, just to be sure that they don't do any fault, and I think it's a mistake. I think that we have to work with students in our countries, with art school in our countries, because we have to say to young people that and to young artist people that also they can create by themselves also a new show, new lighting, new video projection. And I think that one of the future is to always to push the students to do new things for us. And we do that also in Lyon. Of course, each year for now 20 years, we work with young artists, young students. Sometimes we help them because they have some ideas, but it's not so easy to practice after that and to do something with light. But I think it's very important to renew as much as possible the pool of artists, to have different kind of showcase in our cities.
All right, thank you very much. We had one question from the floor over there. We have two questions. Yes, please. Of course.
보통 리옹 비축제 같은 경우 다른 비축제와 달리 주제를 먼저 디렉터가 얘기를 하지 않고 자유롭게 공모를 하는 방식인데, 큐레이션을 할 때 어떤 기준으로 그럼 하게 되는지 그게 굉장히 궁금하고, 어쨌거나 가장 긴 비축제 중에 하나인데 앞으로 리옹 비축제의 비전은 어떻게 가고 있는지 디렉터한테 매우 궁금합니다.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think that in Lyon, first, we don't have a theme each year, never. We try to have more diversity, and sometimes, of course, themes could be very good because it could help artists to create something, but also sometimes it closes the quality for me of what we can do because we want only to choose in this theme. So for me, it's important to have more diversity and to adapt also the festival through the culture of the country or of the city. For example, I worked a lot, so I'm not from Switzerland, but I worked a lot in Geneva, in Switzerland, and in Geneva, there are more Protestant people. And it's very important, they are not so religious, but in their mind, the culture of Protestantism is very important. So they have a lot of money, but when they put one Swiss francs in a artwork, they want it for a long time. And so when I created the Geneva Lux Festival in Geneva, I thought, okay, since we can understand their culture, the way they think about art, I decided to create a festival who could be like open-air museum, and you can see the artwork for different years. So I think that we have to adapt each time our festival to the cities, just to think about what are the main points or the main culture of the city, and then create something related to that. I don't know if you understand me.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the answer. We have one last question. Yes, please.
오늘 발표 들으면서 내년 겨울에는 꼭 리옹을 가고 싶다는 생각을 하게 됐는데요. 좀 궁금한 거는 요즘에 이제 조명 분야에서도 AI 활용에 대해서 굉장히 이제 고민이 많은데 혹시 리옹 비축제에서 그런 거를 도입하고 있는 게 있는지 아니면 이런 AI에 대해서 어떻게 축제에 반영할 수 있을지 어떤 미래를 그려보신 적이 있는지 좀 궁금합니다.
So first of all, you're welcome. Please, we are welcome. We'll be happy to welcome you next year. Of course, we work with AI also in Lyon. I think that we cannot do something else. Of course, AI is everywhere now, so we use AI. But 2 years ago, when we had a very big show on a very famous square in Lyon, La Place des Terreaux, we had a show with AI, but also questioning the issue of AI. What could be AI for us? Is it just a tool, or is it something else? And maybe so I go shortly to the end. The idea was that AI is very important because also it can create a new kind of art. You know, of course, AI is quite different from light show or from movie theater. It could be created. It could create a new kind of art, like it was for other art. For example, 1 century ago, when it was the beginning of the photography, it was also a very big revolution for the artists, because before painters, they took a lot of time to do exactly a very nice painting and to try to be as close as the reality, very close from the reality. And with the photography, it was a shock for them, like us with AI, because one guy with his camera could take in half an hour a very realistic picture. But thanks to that, Impressionism was created, because the painters they could do something else than just a reproduction of the reality. And now we don't think that photography it's very bad. We think that photography is an art, like theater is an art, like painting is an art, like so I think that maybe AI, maybe not now. For the moment, we are all afraid about AI sometimes because we think maybe it will be destroy some jobs, and that's right. Sometimes it will be a very good tool, and that's right also. But I think that maybe in 20 years, maybe we will think, okay, we can go to see a movie, we can go to see photography. But we can go also to see maybe, I don't know how to call it, but AI work art. And maybe in 20 years, the young generations, they will think only it's just the number, it's just another kind of art. So we have to work with that, and we welcome that in Lyon.
Thank you for the answer. It was quite reassuring, giving the examples like photography. And we will take one last question from the gentleman at the back. Oh. Please be careful. Yes. This will be our last question.
네. 저는 문화재 조명 쪽에 관심이 많이 있습니다. 그래서 유럽이나 한국의 문화재 조명을 많이 비추다 보면은 그 유럽 쪽은 주로 이제 대리석이 많다 보니까 쿨라이트 쪽으로도 많이 연출하고, 아시아나 우리나라 같은 경우는 단청색이 강렬하고 색깔이 뚜렷하다 보니까 이제 웜 화이트, 우리는 저 쿨라이트 쪽으로 많이 하고, 유럽은 웜 화이트 쪽으로 많이 연출하는데, 요게 사실 그 문화재에 대한 그 색감도 있겠지만은 그 유럽 사람들의 그 파란 눈하고 우리나라의 그 검정 갈색 눈하고도 보는 느낌이 좀 차이가 있어요. 그러다 보니까 이제 우리가 이제 아무래도 유럽 쪽을 연구하신 분들하고 같이 이게 협의를 하다 보면은 그런 서로 각자 공부한 거에 대한 갭이 있거든요. 그래서 그거를 우리 거를 아시아 쪽 색감이 좀 강한 쪽, 검정눈, 갈색눈 쪽에서 연출하는 거를 유럽 쪽으로 연결한다든가, 아니면 유럽 쪽 기술을 아시아 쪽으로 연결할 때 그 갭을 어떻게 하면은 좀 줄여나가면서 효율성을 높일 수 있는지, 그런 아이디어가 있으시면 좀 해주시면 좋겠습니다.
So the question was, gentleman over there is very interested mostly in the culture, artifact, lighting. And when he did researches with European experts, there were differences within the culture and also the material they use. Mostly marbles are used in European-wise, so usually they use warm white color, but in Asia, the colors are more vivid, so they mostly use cool white. And like these differences, what kind of way we can reduce the gaps between the Asian and also the European cultural-wise when using light? Are there any ways?
Thank you so much. I think that for me, we don't have to reduce the gap. I don't know why we have to reduce the gap. I think that it's very important to keep our particularities. If in Asia you prefer to work with moonlight or silver light, that's great. We don't have to be exactly the same in Western and Eastern places in over the world. I think that one important thing for me is just to be sure that we keep our identities also. And it's important, of course, and Korean identities, it's at the same level that other identities or French identities are at the same level and others' identities. I don't think that one is better than the other. But I think that the fact that everybody is different is very important. And if we want to do the same thing everywhere, like, we have already the same shops everywhere. We have many things that we can find in our countries. Before it was only in Asia, sometimes only in France or in Europe. Now we can find everything everywhere. I don't think it's a good idea, this is globalization. I think it's important to think that light is really an art. Light is really cultural. And we have to keep this culture because we have to be proud to do this kind of light in our countries. And it's very interesting to go to invite some foreign artists. In France, we try each year to invite foreign artists to work with us in our festival, just to show to the inhabitants and the visitors what they do in another country. But we don't have to do the same thing. We just have to say, look at what they do in Hungary this year, or in China, or in whatever. That's enough to see. We don't have to be exactly the same everywhere.
All right, thank you for the answer. I love the part where we can just accept the diversity and different cultures in light and seeing the light as art itself. I love that phrase as well. Thank you once again. Thank you. And let us close the Q&A session. Please give a big round of applause for our director. Thank you very much. And I believe this concludes the morning session, and you must be quite hungry at the moment, so we have prepared lunch boxes. If you take a look at your left, there's a table over there. We have prepared lunch boxes, but with a positive and good surprise. There are many of you here other than our expectations. So please, if you find some difficulties in having lunchboxes, but still bear with us until the end, please, one by one from the back row, head to the table over there and get your lunchboxes first so that we can make orders. And please make sure to return the eaten lunchboxes, the empty lunchboxes, to the table again too. Thank you. And this is the policy for this very DDP, so please understand, bear with us. Thank you, and enjoy your lunch. Thank you very much.